One or two of you may have read an alternative CV for me that appeared this morning in the Irish Independent, courtesy of Dick Roche, who, amongst other things, apparently I come from the same gene pool, political gene pool, as the neo-fascists, and I represent an extremist nationalist party. Well, it just goes to show how frightened Dick Roche is of the arguments that we're trying to advance, that he has to sink into the gutter with his comments, making comments that would never be made by any British politician. I could give you the benefit of the doubt, sir, and say they were made out of ignorance, but I suspect, in fact, they were made out of malice. I'll make it absolutely clear that I represent a completely non-racist, non-sectarian, libertarian party. Yes, we believe in free markets. Yes, we believe in independence. But we've never had any association with those people, and we jolly well never would. And because of that, the British people increasingly do trust us, which is why we came second in the European elections in Britain. But of course, he was intending to divert me, and he has, because I've wasted a minute of my speech on him, which I didn't really want to do. But of course the reason he's done it is this is the same Dick Roche who said there is no reason to believe that large numbers of workers will wish to come. And he wrote that to the Irish Times back in 2002, and he'd much rather there was no debate about migration into Ireland and the impact it's having on this economy at a time when you have hundreds of thousands of unemployed and it's rising fast. It's classic. It's classic, I'm afraid, of the lies that you in Ireland and us in Britain and in many other countries have been told successively. You open the door with Nice, 500,000 have come, and what this treaty does, of course, is it opens the door in time to Turkey, which would give free movement of peoples to a further 80 million people. And it's an element and an aspect that should be debated in this referendum campaign. And I would also like to correct other members of the press that say that UKIP, this ghastly UKIP, are piling money. I mean, you think we're the richest party on earth, that we're piling money into this referendum campaign to help the no side. UKIP isn't involved in this. UKIP won't put a penny piece into this Irish referendum campaign. I am here to represent a group in the European Parliament, the Europe of Freedom and Democracy, representing 33 MEPs, and we're trying to do something here because we want to redress the balance. Because it seems to us we're not really having a fair democratic campaign. You know, the Broadcasting Commission here have thrown out of the window the idea that both sides should get equal time. You've got millions coming in from the European Commission. You've got hundreds of politicians from across Europe campaigning for a yes, and somehow I'm accused of interfering. The real debate here is about democracy and it's about power. And this treaty gives unlimited potential power to the European Union without there ever having to be more intergovernmental conferences, without there having to be any more referendums in the future. This, frankly, is an affront to the peoples of Ireland that you should be asked again. And Dick Roche, again, it's a subject he's been very hot on over the years, haven't you, Minister? To attempt to rerun a referendum as a means of reversing the democratic decision taken by the people would rightly be regarded as an affront. You remember that, Minister, I'm sure. The French said no, they were ignored. The Dutch said no, they were ignored. The Irish have said no, and they're being bullied into voting again.
Sulle agenzie c'è un corollario di voci, di riunioni, non si sa nemmeno se dovrà esserci una riunione straordinaria a Bruxelles. Ma io mi domando una cosa, esaminando i nomi che circolano. Per esempio, mi limito a tre, Balkenende, Miliband e Van Rompuy. Ma è mai possibile che nessuno abbia osservato che tutte e tre sono frequentatori delle riunioni vuoi del Bilderberg, vuoi della trilaterale? Beh, io credo che si debbano stabilire dei principi di trasparenza, tanto sovente indicati a parole dalle nostre istituzioni, e si debba chiedere con chiarezza a queste persone se sono i candidati del loro paese nelle forze politiche o di questi gruppi occulti che si riuniscono a porte chiuse e decidono sulla pelle e sulla testa dei popoli.
Well, good morning, everybody. You're all very downbeat this morning. I thought this was going to be a big, proud moment. I mean, it's taken you 8.5 years of bullying, of lying, of ignoring democratic referendums. 8.5 years it's taken you to get this treaty through, and on the 1st of December, you will have it. And of course, the architect of all of this, Giscard, wanted from this constitutional treaty for the European Union to have a big global voice. But I'm afraid the leaders have suffered from a collective loss of nerve. They've decided that they want their faces to be up on the global stage, not somebody from the European Union, and so we've got appointed a couple of political pygmies. The Kissinger question of who to call in Europe hasn't really been answered, has it? I guess the answer can only be Mr. Barroso, because he's the only one that anybody in the world has ever heard of, and is probably the big winner out of these posts. No wonder, sir, you look so happy this morning. And we have a new President of Europe, Herman Van Rompuy. Doesn't exactly trip off the tongue, does it? I can't see him stopping the traffic in Beijing or Washington. I doubt anybody in Brussels would even recognise who he is. And yet, he's going to be paid a salary that is bigger than Obama's, which tells you all you need to know about this European political class and how they look after themselves. But at least he's an elected politician, unlike Baroness Cathy Ashton, who really is the true representation of the modern day political class. In some ways she's ideal, isn't she? She's never had a proper job and she's never been elected to anything in her life. So I guess she's perfect for this European Union.
Excuse me, Mr. Farage.
Yes.
I would like to put down your postages. You made your presentation.
Right, okay.
Is
Just
enough for
calm
us.
down, chaps.
Okay,
Calm down, chaps.
please continue.
Calm down. But, I mean, she's never been elected to anything, and no one knows who she is. Even the Prime Minister was talking about Baroness Ashdown as opposed to Ashton. I mean, no one has ever heard of her. She's even less well known than Herman Van Rompuy. I mean, that takes some doing, doesn't it? She's risen without trace. She's part of this post-democratic age. She married well. She married an advisor and a friend and supporter of Tony Blair and got put in the House of Lords. When she was in the House of Lords, she was given one big job, and the job was to get the Lisbon Treaty through the House of Lords, and to do so pretending that it was entirely different to the EU constitution. So she's good at keeping a straight face, and she vigorously crushed any attempt in the House of Lords for the British people to have a referendum. So here she is, never stood for public office, never had a proper job, and here she gets one of the top jobs in the Union. Her appointment is an embarrassment for Britain. But it's much worse. Well, at least I've been elected, sir. Unlike her, she's not been elected, and the people don't have the power to remove her. But just hear the next bit. There's something rather more serious than that. Cathy Ashton was an active member of the campaign for nuclear disarmament. In fact, she was the treasurer of the campaign for nuclear disarmament during a period of time when CND took very large donations and refused to reveal the source. What is known is that these donations were obtained by a man called Will Howard, who was a member of the Communist Party in Great Britain. Will Baroness Ashton deny that while she was treasurer, that she took funds from organisations who were opposed to Western-style capitalism and democracy? That question must be asked. And are we really happy that somebody who will be in charge of our overseas security policy was an activist a few years ago in an outfit like CND? I mean, if we really think that, frankly, we need our bumps felt. I don't think that she's a fit and proper person to do this job. She has no experience, and unless she can answer those questions, did she take money from enemies of the West? That question must be answered. Well, we have our two pygmies. We'll have the bland leading the bland, but I'm not celebrating, because they'll press on with political union, and whilst our leaders may have saved face for the moment for themselves on the international stage, they have all betrayed their national democracies. The European state is here. We're about to get an avalanche of new laws because of this Lisbon Treaty, and there's no question in my mind that there has to be a full, free, fair referendum in the United Kingdom to decide whether we stay part of this union or not. I hope and pray that we vote to leave, but either way, the people simply must be asked. Thank you.
No, do you think? Well, chciałem
I would like to turn to Mr. Farage. It would be most appropriate if you turned your tone down.